Hey everyone, welcome back to PR and Test Drive. Last week we tested Jaguar's final version of the F-Type, the R75 convertible. It's got a 5-liter supercharged V8 engine that puts out 575 horsepower, and let me tell you what, it was a whole lot of fun. So feel free to check that video out in the links in our description box. This week we've got the same powertrain, same engine in SUV form. This is the 2025 Jaguar F-Pace SVR 575 edition. In previous model years, the SVR F-Pace is only available with the P550 power output. However, as a goodbye for this model year, before they retire this powertrain, they've given this the full-fledged 575 horsepower treatment. So let's check it out. Up in the front, the SVR gets these massive and aggressive styling front bumpers, along with monotone badging and some hood vents. If you take a closer look, you'll also find these massive heat exchangers behind each side of the grille for extra cooling for the big V8. The front end, although looked very aggressive, I think still retains the poshness it needs to be a British vehicle. I like it. Under the hood, as mentioned, is the truly iconic 5-liter supercharged V8 engine, this time around producing 575 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque. Power is routed through an 8-speed ZF transmission to all 4 wheels, and in the rear you also get an electronically limited slip differential. Aside from the absolutely gorgeous side profile, this SVR comes with upgraded 22-inch alloy rims, paired with Scorpion Zero all-season tires. These are 265 wide in the front and 295 in the rear. 4-piston huge brake in the front and a single piston floating caliper style brakes in the rear. In terms of suspension setup, you get a double wishbone setup in the front and a multi-link in the rear. It also has adaptive dampers alongside with really nice looking actual real vents. Over to the rear, first thing you'll notice for sure are these huge quad exhaust pipes. They look really good, and unlike some other brands, these are very, very real. Aside from that, you'll also notice that there are some fins over here. You also get them in the side skirts as well. I think they look pretty cool. Moving on up, you get monochrome SVR badging and blacked out Jaguar badging. And then we have this. The rear wiper really, in my opinion, is an abomination. It looks very, very out of place here. Really, Jaguar needs to put it underneath the spoiler for their next model. Anyway, trunk space. A really good amount of space in here. You include latches to fold down your rear seats. Underneath the trunk floor is a spare tire, so not a whole lot of space down here. Before we jump into the interior, let's also hear how this V8 sounds. It's an iconic sound. Jaguar has toned it down over the years, but still, I think it sounds pretty good. The interior is nothing short of beautiful. Red, black, leather, suede materials, along with this super good looking bucket seats. I have no words. This interior is stunning. Are these seats very comfortable? Not particularly, but I don't think I even mind because they look so cool. This SVR is pretty much fully loaded when it comes to the equipment list, so you get things like the Meridian sound system, air purification, quad zone, climate control, head-up display, heated windshield, and we got a weird one. A power gesture controlled sunblind on the sunroof. I don't know how often you really use it because there is actually a physical button right here that you could press instead, but I think is a cool party trick. In terms of the standard features, of course you get heated and cooled seats along with heated steering wheel. I also really like the steering wheel design, especially with the dual texture material here. Looks great, feels great, and you also get metal paddle shifters. Fully digital instrument cluster here, and a curved infotainment screen which supports wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto. But perhaps what I like the most about the interior controls is the physical buttons and knobs for my climate control. Unlike the Velar that we tested a while back, that, even though it has a similar setup, doesn't get physical buttons for your climate control. Everything is controlled in the screen, and I didn't really like that. I much prefer this setup. One last Easter egg before we move to the back seat is that the drive mode selector actually can come up and down, which is pretty cool. If you thought the front seats looked cool, then I think the rear seats look cooler because you get the same style bucket seats in the rear as well. I don't think I can name many other SUV that has this kind of setup. Anyway, in terms of space, I do get a pretty decent amount of legroom and enough headroom. The seat in front, for reference, is adjusted to my driving position, and I'm 5'9". I do have one complaint though, which is the fact that I cannot recline these rear seats, and I think they sit a little bit too straight. To make things worse, you can clearly see from the trunk that there's a bit of a gap between the back seats and the start of the trunk, right about 2 inches of space here. I don't understand why Jaguar couldn't have just installed a lever or made these seats recline just a little bit more. One last thing that I've noticed about the rear seats is that on the door jamb here, there's a big piece of black cladding for, I'm not sure what it's for. If you know what this is for, let me know down in the comments below. Is it just for scratches or what is it for? Woo! 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 4 seconds flat. This is a fast SUV. The powertrain is amazing. The transmission is snappy. It also handles pretty well. Turn-ins are sharp, the brake feels good, and are really strong. Overall, there is quite a lot of road feedback, which I really like. And then, of course, you have the exhaust notes. Even though Jaguar has toned it down a little bit, it's less obnoxious compared to the previous versions, it still sounds pretty darn good. Now I must admit that jumping from the F-Type R75 into this F-Pace SVR, I do notice that the transmission and the exhaust notes have been dialed down. I feel like Jaguar has traded some of the performance for comfort. Now the transmission is a little bit less aggressive in terms of shift speed, and the exhausts just don't pop and crackle as much. Really, it still sounds good, but I wish that Jaguar would just replicate what we have in the F-Type into here and give me a little bit more of that brute. Nonetheless, I am still very satisfied with the performance level that this F-Pace SVR provides, and I'm thoroughly enjoying myself. Whew. Considering that this is a performance SUV, I would say that the ride quality is pretty compliant. It is not too stiff, and it doesn't have any of the body roll or the floatiness that the Velar that we've tested, the P400, has. I also think that the adaptive dampers does a good job because I can clearly differentiate the difference in stiffness between comfort and sport modes. In terms of safety tech, this SVR has everything you'd expect a modern vehicle to have: emergency braking, blind spot warning, adaptive cruise control, lane centering, as well as parking assist, a 360 camera, and so on. But something I've noticed with the autonomous driving is that although the adaptive cruise control brakes early and does a good job, the lane centering isn't as reliable as I would like. Occasionally on gentle curves, it wouldn't track the lanes properly and it would just sort of pivot out of the lane. So something to note there. Okay, what about fuel economy? As expected, this is a gas guzzler. Every acceleration is gonna cost you a few bucks in gas. In the city, even if you're driving just ever so slightly spiritedly, you're looking at upwards of 20 liters per 100 kilometers in terms of fuel economy. However, on the highway, I've actually been able to manage 9 to 10 liters per 100 kilometers, which for an SUV of this caliber, it's pretty good. Alright, here are some of my final thoughts. This SVR is pretty much fully loaded and it cost about 111,000 Canadian dollars with delivery, which I think is somewhat of a bargain considering that you're getting a big supercharged V8 engine and this amazing soundtrack, along with the ability to carry around your family, so on and so forth. Of course, I am sad to see that all these iconic Jaguar vehicles are getting discontinued. First, the F-Type, and then soon this. But I am looking forward to seeing what Jaguar has to offer in their all-electric lineup. What do you guys think about this F-Pace SVR 575 edition? Would you get one before they discontinue it, or are you waiting for their electric vehicles? Let me know down in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.